Hello everyone, my name is Devin Sardinha, and today I'm going to be talking about part of Chapter 6 called Improving Group Climate. Before I begin, let's take a look at some goals we should be able to do by the time we're done with this presentation. The first is identify behaviors that contribute to a defensive or supportive group climate. The second is identify examples of confirming and disconfirming interpersonal relationships. And lastly, we should be able to identify and describe factors that contribute to group cohesiveness. All right, let's take a look at the differences between supportive and defensive group climates. Defensive group climates are virtually counterproductive in any group. People who feel defensive tend to spend time protecting themselves and worry about how they are perceived by others, and generally try to win or justify arguments. Because of that, focus and productivity suffer. Supportive climates, on the other hand, increase focus and productivity in working towards a group's goal. Stress and burnout is reduced, and interpersonal relationships can foster. So let's take a look at some categories of the do's and don'ts of communication in groups. The first is evaluation versus description. Evaluation is you-type language, while description is I-type language. And evaluation is, for example, saying something like, your idea is stupid, you didn't think this through, you, versus descriptive I language, which is something like, I'm thinking about your solution, and as I'm working it through, I'm finding some problems. Did I miss something? Speaking in terms of I takes a lot of pressure off of others and tends to be more objective and open. Control versus problem orientation. Now, control is the I know what's best for you attitude, trying to manipulate people, where problem orientation is communicating in a way that addresses the problem. An example of this is saying something like, as far as what we need to do, we're having trouble with this, and this, rather than telling people what they should be doing or how they should be feeling. Strategy versus spontaneity. Strategy here means any kind of planned communication, whether verbal or nonverbal, that seeks to fulfill a hidden agenda. And spontaneity is more of a here and now kind of communication that tends to be more open and honest. And the open and honest approach definitely fosters more supportive climates. Neutrality versus empathy. Here, neutrality is a kind of emotional indifference towards one another, a kind of callousness, where empathy is a willingness to communicate your emotional involvement to each other, which is definitely a lot more supportive. Superiority versus equality. Superiority, like control, is that I'm better than you attitude, and it definitely tends to make people very defensive, as opposed to treating them with mutual respect and understanding, which is equality. And lastly, we have certainty versus provisionalism. Certainty is a kind of dogmatic, rigid point of view, and people who communicate this way typically try to win arguments regardless of the facts, and are very hard-headed, to say the least. Provisionalism, on the other hand, is a type of communication that fosters openness and flexibility, and definitely provides a more supportive atmosphere for the group. Now let's take a look at some confirming and disconfirming responses. Here, confirming means any type of response that makes someone feel more valued rather than less. And as you can see here on the left side, some disconfirming responses are impervious, interrupting, irrelevant, tangential, impersonal, incoherent, and incongruous. And a lot of these mean exactly how they sound. These can be any type of responses, ranging from not acknowledging someone when they spoke, interrupting them, acknowledging them but changing the subject, speaking in broken sentences, not making sense, and also saying one thing verbally but showing something else non-verbally. All these types of responses tend to lower people's value. On the other hand, we have confirming responses, which are direct acknowledgement when somebody speaks, agreement about the content, supportive responses, clarifying responses, and expressions of positive feelings. All these types of responses foster value in others. And lastly, let's take a look at 4 factors of group cohesiveness. Now, group cohesiveness basically means how close members of a group feel towards one another, as well as a group in general. And the first factor is group composition. Now, this is an important one because how close a group feels depends on their individual skills and what they bring to the group, as well as their relationships amongst each other. And a group with a wide variety of skill sets and strong relationships with one another will foster the most cohesiveness. The second factor is individual benefits. And what that means is the ability of individuals in the group to successfully meet each other's needs will overall make them feel closer as a group. Third factor is task effectiveness. This is a simple one. It basically means that a more successful group will generally feel closer together. So a group that's able to meet the needs of each other as well as the common group tasks successfully will feel closer as a group. The last factor is communication, and this is probably the biggest one. Groups that communicate more frequently and more openly with each other tend to feel closer to each other. And the mix of all these 4 factors will ultimately determine the level of cohesiveness amongst groups. And that's it, guys. Thanks for watching.